There has been many instances in Kashmir where young children were used by militants to throw stones on security forces. There have also been instances where the militants have burned down several school buildings. The militants have also attacked residential cantonments of security forces that have resulted in the killing of security forces and civilians. The union government and the state government has adopted a multi-pronged approach to contain cross-border infiltration. This is done in the following ways: construction of border fencing, improved technological surveillance, improved intelligence, discouragement of the local youth from joining militancy. Yeah, this is what has happened. That we see that many of the terrorists are entering from Kashmir through LOC, line of control. Okay, from POK, Pakistan occupied Kashmir, they are entering into LOC, line of control. Okay, and then they come and attack people in Kashmir, and the common people are being affected. So the government has come out with this one, that we have to do fencing so that it is not so easy for the terrorists to enter into the border. Okay, technological surveillance is there. Border forces are busy surveilling the fencing. Improved intelligence is there, and then local youth from joining militancy. Of the local youth should not join militancy. That is the main thing, because that they may help them. The government has also tried to ensure that the socio-economic problems faced by the people of the state are properly looked into. To achieve this, there is a need to maintain peace and stability in the region. Therefore, the government seeks to provide an opportunity to all the sections of the population to participate in the decision making process. The Government of India has launched a scheme called UDAN that aims at skill development of the state's unemployed youth to enable them to seek employment in various industries. The state of Jammu and Kashmir faces another important problem. The growth of militancy in early 90s resulted in the displacement of a large number of Kashmiri Pandit families along with some Sikh and Muslim families from the Kashmir Valley to Jammu. You can see over here, see photos of schools burned in Kashmir. Here you can see the fence which is there, border fencing in Jammu area, Delhi and other parts of the country. The Indian government has been providing relief and rehabilitation to the displaced people from Kashmir. There is the left-wing extremism. Left-wing extremism. The origin of the left-wing extremist movement, otherwise called the Naxalite movement, can be traced to the Telangana movement, that is 1946 to 51. What is Telangana movement? The region now being called Telangana was part of the erstwhile Hyderabad state, which became part of India. The Telangana movement was a rebellion by the peasant community against the feudal lords of Telangana. The Telangana movement was a product of the efforts by communist and socialist parties to organize the peasantry against injustice committed by the feudal lords. In 1967, protests were laid in Naxalbari against the feudal system in India. Since the protests began in Naxalbari, it has been called Naxalite movement. They are also referred to as Maoist because they follow the ideology of Mao Zedong, Mao Tse-tung. This movement is known to follow violent means to promote their ideology. This has resulted in loss of lives and property. Today, the Communist Party of India, Maoist, is the most important group that is part of the left-wing extremism. This group has tried to establish itself in some areas of Jharkhand, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha border, tri-junction of Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and tri-junction of Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Chhattisgarh. Okay, these are the three places where they are there. No, then what is this? What is left-wing extremism? In 2004, the People's War (PW), then opening in Andhra Pradesh, then operating in Andhra Pradesh, and the Maoist Communist Center of India, that is MCCI, then operating in Bihar and adjoining areas, merged to form the CPI, Maoist Party. The CPI, Maoist Party, is the major left-wing extremist outfit that has been included in the schedule of terrorist organization, along with all its formations and front organizations under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act 1967. The CPI Maoist philosophy is to use armed insurgency to overthrow the government. The third internal security problem which we are facing is called as terrorism. Terrorism has been defined as an application of violence or the threat to use violence with an intention to create panic in the society. It may appear to use guerrilla tactics, but it differs from guerrilla warfare. Unlike the guerrillas, the terrorists do not hold on to any territory. It is called asymmetric warfare because there is no pattern to the nature of violent attacks that are conducted. It is used to create panic in society by targeting the people who cannot defend themselves. Therefore, the targets are called soft targets. For example, there would be attacks on buses, train or bus stations, cinema theaters, markets, mall, etc. It is deliberate and has political motivations. The terrorists usually fight for some abstract ideology or belief. They are usually a part of some organization that promotes this belief. Modern day terrorism is international in nature. Today, the terrorists are their organizations, and their organizations conduct terrorist attacks in various countries. Lebanon attack which took place, and Taj attack which took place, then 26/11 Twin Towers attack was there. Again, at 12 places, the bomb blast took place. Zaveri Bazaar bomb blast took place. Air India, this one, Air India, where the ticketing counter was there it took place. Air India branch. So in many places attacks took place. There is no this one. And who are targeted? Common people are targeted. Now when they came to Mumbai, CST railway station, they're simply firing. Okay, which is very bad. Terrorism very bad. Some of the examples of international terrorist attack. Attack in the United States, popularly called the 9/11 attack, where terrorists used airplanes to destroy American targets in New York, World Trade Center, and Washington D.C. Pentagon on 11 September 2001. In 2005, there were series of terrorist suicide bomb attacks at Bali, Indonesia. Bomb exploded at two tourist sites in Jimbaran Beach Resort and in Kuta, both in South Bali. In 2015, there were three suicide bombers that struck during a football match in the city of Paris in France. This was followed by several mass shootings and suicide bombings at cafes and restaurants. In 2017, an attack took place at the London Bridge in United Kingdom, where a van left the road and struck a number of pedestrians. After the van crashed, the terrorists ran to the nearby Borough Market area and began stabbing people in and around restaurants and pubs. Now, some examples of terrorist activities in India. Attack on the Indian Parliament on 13 December 2001. Five heavily armed terrorists allegedly belonging to terror groups Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed attacked the Parliament complex in New Delhi and opened fire indiscriminately. Simply they were firing. Then attack in Mumbai. On 26 November 2008, a series of terrorist attacks took place in Mumbai. The places where the attacks took place included the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Railway Terminal, the Oberoi Trident, and Taj Palace Hotels, Leopold Cave, Kama Hospital, Nariman House, Metro Cinema, and some other places. The attacks were conducted by members of the Lashkar-e-Taiba, an organization based in Pakistan. How does one protect oneself from terrorism? The fight against terrorism has to be a coordinated effort. Good governance will result in ensuring that the various services and facilities that the government provides to the citizens reach those who need them the most. The intelligence and law enforcement agencies have to anticipate, identify, track, and destroy terrorism. It is also necessary for the civil society to ensure that they do not promote any kind of terrorist activity. They should also educate the public about the possible threats and how to handle them. One needs to be vigilant about one's own surroundings and note anything that looks abnormal. If one sees any suspicious person or unattended bag or item, the police should be informed immediately. It is wrong to encourage terrorists out of fear or for monetary gain. Northeast region comprises 8 states: Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Sikkim, and Tripura. This region has more than 200 ethnic groups which have distinct languages, dialects, and socio-cultural identities. The Northeast holds an important position from a strategic point of view as these states share their borders with other countries like Bangladesh, Bhutan, Myanmar, and China. The security situation in the northeastern states has remained complex because of diverse demands of ethnic groups and various militant outfits. This is a remote and relatively underdeveloped region with a deprived population which feels neglected. This has been a source of insurgency. This has been supported by China, and insurgents have taken refuge in Myanmar and Bangladesh. Some of the major militant groups include the United Liberation Front of Assam, National Democratic Front of Bodoland, Mizo National Front, National Socialist Council of Nagaland, and the Kirby People's Liberation Tigers. The Northeastern Council was set up as an advisory body in 1972. Today, it functions as the regional planning body for the Northeastern region. It has taken up several infrastructure and social sector projects of critical importance for socio-economic progress of the region. Role of the armed forces in internal security situations. India has faced several challenges to national integration from within and without. The Indian Army has been called to assist the civilian authority for the maintenance of law and order. Maintenance of essential services, assistance during natural calamities, etc. The task of maintaining internal security is essentially that of the police force, but under some critical circumstances, it becomes necessary for the government to deploy the armed forces. The armed forces have been called in to help to maintain security in Kashmir and the northeast India. There are certain rules and regulations that govern the use of armed forces when they act in aid of the civil authority. They are based on the following principles: necessity, minimum force, impartiality, and good faith. Thus, there should be justification for every action that the troops take while acting in this role. It is expected that the least amount of force be used. The force to be used would depend on the situation and the professional judgment of the concerned commander. Further, the troops are not to take sides in any conflict situation, especially in the context of religious, caste conflicts, and that these principles are to be followed in good faith. Have you heard of a flag march by the army? When there is a severe riot and unrest, and the police and the paramilitary is unable to handle the situation, the army is called to restore peace in the area disturbed by the riots. At such times, the army conducts a parade in the streets to show their presence and indicate to the people that they are ready to ensure that there is peace and order in the area. I think flag march or paramilitary force was called during the riots which took place with Hindus and Muslims. I think so. Yeah. So in many times the flag march is done. Now this is what is the homework. Write the names of some of the terrorist groups that operate in Jammu and Kashmir. Can you also name the leaders of these groups? Paste a newspaper report on any terrorist attack in India and discuss it in the class. On the map of India, look at the red corridor that describes the region affected by the Naxalite militancy. Identify the districts in Maharashtra that are part of the red corridor. Discuss in the classroom and write a note. Can problems be resolved by peaceful means? Is it necessary to use violent means to get our demands satisfied? List the examples of international terror attacks. List the precautionary measures for terrorist attacks. And next lesson we shall see about disaster management in the next session.